Many thanks for watching. Welcome back. Now, government is currently working on to review the deregulation policy for the downstream petroleum sector. This follows concerns about how its implementation is hurting some industry players. George Rafi has more.
Policy, which was introduced in 2015, was meant to limit government's control and active participation in the petroleum sector. In the area of price deregulation, government was also expected to stop certain prices for petroleum products and allow market forces to determine it. However, recent challenges with fuel price review and distribution has reignited calls for government to take a second look at this policy. According to the National Petroleum Authority, the review will look at competition, operations of petroleum service providers, cost of pricing methodology, and business models. Deputy Energy Minister Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam tells Joy Business this would not lead to total scrapping of the policy, but just the troubled areas.
Yes, it can be reviewed, but
are you for
reviewing it? Yes, I'm for it. I'm for reviewing it, but reviewing it doesn't mean it should be stopped. That's not what I'm talking about. Reviewing it is, let's sit down and discuss which aspects of the deregulation policy are not working so that we are able to address it. And MPA has indicated to us that they will be holding a national dialogue on the deregulation policy with the view to looking at what is not working, what is working, so that we can be able to make recommendations on how to address it.
Some would say especially the pricing aspect.
No, when you talk about deregulation, you cannot divorce the pricing aspect. Okay? What is not making it work? If it is the supply of forex, because in bringing the deregulation policy, you assume that the operators will have, forex supply easily. And then they are not getting the forex supply. And so the issue is not the deregulation. The issue is the factors that make the deregulation work. Some of them may not be working. And so we need to sit down and discuss. And that is what we are going to do at the National Stakeholders Dialogue.
It is expected that this move could lead to stable fuel prices at the pumps. In a related development, the National Petroleum Authority is also working to review the licenses issued to importers of petroleum products. This could end up with some restrictions on those who can import the products and even market it locally, as well as exports.
Now, the threat of cybersecurity to Ghana's financial market has led to the introduction of best ways of financial technologies that protect business transactions and clients' data. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the regulator, is advocating this move by all industry players. Charles IT has been at an ongoing workshop by the SEC and the cybersecurity firm E-Crime Bureau and has come through with this report.
Hackers have not been able to come up with new innovative ways of hacking into systems like this in the financial market to get the needed information they need to make any other transaction they wish to get. We put all these concerns to the head of Security and Business Directorate at E-Crime Bureau. They're going to be the company that have been engaging SEC officials on cybersecurity, and he's in the person of Philip Dankwa Deborah.
In most organizations are sort of having issues with system vulnerabilities, and to the extent that they don't know. And it's important to expose them by bringing their awareness level as to the potential threats that are existing. So much that in going back, management can implement certain policy programs to ensure the cyber attackers don't take advantage of the systems we are running on.
Reverend Obama is the Director General for SEC, and he tells me that yes, it's much of a concern to them, and they will, going forward, be looking at deeper engagement with government on best ways by which they could ensure security when it comes to the cyber world.
Going forward, we will be looking at what kind of directives to give, what kind of capacity building programs to put in place. Because it's not enough to just give a directive. Importantly, the directive must be there, but then you need to ensure that the operators also have the capacity to do what it takes to ensure that they are sound when it comes to cybersecurity. So yes, we will be doing a lot of engagement because it's also a very dynamic area, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we just have to be on our toes, and at the end of the day, we are keeping in mind protecting investors and also protecting the integrity of the market. So to the extent that cyber crime or e-crime can be a potential hazard to our industry.
At a click of a button on your computer screen or even on your keyboard, a financial wreck could erupt. And this is the main reason why SEC, through the E-Crime Bureau, has come together to form what has been termed a strategic workshop for all directors under its purview. The question so far remains whether or not government and even the financial institutions are ready should any instance of a cyber attack strike the financial market. For Joy Business, I'm Charles Ayeta reporting from the Best Western Premier Hotel in Accra.
The Ghana Chamber of Mines is pushing for some tax exemptions for exploration companies in the upcoming 2019 budget, or risk losing investments into the sector. Speaking to Joy Business, President of the Chamber, Eric Esubontin, says the exemption has become necessary as the current taxes in the sector is causing the industry to lose business to neighboring countries.
We would be making detailed input to the Ministry of Finance to ensure that our concerns are adequately reflected. Having said that, some of the things that we've raised in the past has been to do with, for instance, VAT and other taxes that applies to exploration. Mining is a long-term, you take a long-term view or perspective when you are in the mining business, and it starts with exploration. At any point in time, you need to have a pipeline of projects that are coming through. If you are not effectively exploring, you are not going to have that pipeline continuously. The current operations will come to an end. You need new discoveries so that you can sustain the industry. We've made those concerns known to government in the past. We need to ensure that the exploration sector of the mining industry is incentivized so that they can keep exploring. At the moment, we're losing a lot of exploration activity to some of our competitors in the region. For instance, Mali, Burkina Faso, and so on, because it's more expensive to explore in Ghana. And remember, when you are exploring, you are not making money, you are just spending money. And so we have to do what is right to support that aspect of the industry to ensure that we keep having a pipeline of projects and operations coming through.
Now, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union has described as unfair severance packages for workers of defunct banks proposed by the receiver. A one-month salary has been proposed as terminal benefits for affected employees. Deputy General Secretary of Operations Morgan Ayawine says the ICU has decided to represent the workers in the discussion. He tells Love Business the union will support aggrieved workers despite they not being unionized.
Fortunately for the workers of these 7 collapsed banks are not members of any union in the country. That makes it very, very difficult for them to fight for their rights and to insist that their terminal benefits be looked at more appropriately. So we as ICU have decided to help them out and then to represent them in the negotiations. So we have had meetings with the Minister for Employment and the receiver of these 5 banks, and Bank of Ghana and the receiver of the 5 collapsed banks are willing, they are ready to sit down with the trade unions to do a kind of negotiations as against the offer of 1 month that the bank announced earlier as their terminal benefits. How can one be working for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you base the decision on the 1 month on the insolvent nature of the bank? We think they have not been fair to the workers. That is why we have stepped in to bail out, to assist our unfortunate brothers and sisters of these banks. But it is not a good commentary to even say that they are not part of the union, they are not members of the union. In another scenario, we believe that it is a wake-up call for those who do not belong to unions. This is the time for them to take the opportunity of the presence of trade unions and then join.
Let's stay in the financial sector. The Bank of Ghana has denied holding back on support for banks that are having serious financial challenges. There are reports that the regulator has been slow in responding to these banks hit by some panic withdrawals. But advisor to the governor of the central bank, Dr. Benjamin Amoah, tells Joy Business that is not the situation on the ground.
The bank operation, if you have liquidity problems, you have to come to us. We don't have to come to you and say, hey, you are not meeting your customers' demand, come and get money.
So you stand ready to help
you need collateral. If you have the relevant collateral, which bank cannot meet customer needs? It's not banks. Maybe we are looking at other institutions. So if you are a bank, you have collateral, you can even borrow on the interbank market. So our is the last resort. So if you are not successful there, you come to us as the last resort, and we provide you with liquidity. There are limits. The ELA, the Bank of the law as amended, set up to 90 days. It has to be paid back. So if you have the relevant documents, the relevant collateral, we are the central bank and the lender of last resort.
And you will support.
And we won't renege on our responsibility.
So we shouldn't be
as the lender of last resort.
So those concerns that we've seen on the market about some...
I don't know what you see. See is, I don't know, I have not seen it. But the point is, if you are a bank, you are solvent, you have temporary liquidity constraints, and you have collateral, adequate collateral documentation, the central bank is the lender of last resort. And we won't renege on our function.
It's live on the marketplace, coming to you live on Joy News. Now, an Achimota school graduate who eventually went hawking marmalade ended up creating the Association of Ghana Industries. Her work at the first UN meeting for women and her speech on women's inability to get collateral led to the creation of the Women's World Banking. Here's the story of Esther Ocloo, the brain behind the Ocloo brand.
She would have been 99 by now. One woman who broke the frontiers and put Ghana on the map. Her contributions to the general economy of Ghana and indeed industries are just unnumbered. She is the creator of, well, the AGI, the Association of Ghanaian Industries. Then she actually chaired the Women's World Banking worldwide when it was set up, well, in the 70s. Today, my lenses are now going to be focusing on what's happened to her in Ocloo company several years after she went to her grave.
When she studied in London, she found out that during the war, the women preserved lots of food to keep them through the war. And therefore, she came back with the idea that she should do something similar. And that actually even influenced her processing our local foods to keep throughout the year. But then she also felt made in Ghana goods were not as popular as imported goods then. So she went out of her way to mobilize manufacturers to form an association. And it so happened it coincided with the government asking for a committee to be set up to help manufacturers with their problems. So she advertised in the newspaper and got many manufacturers around, and that was the beginning of what was then the Federation of Ghana Industries, which is now the Association of Ghana Industries.
By 2019, she would have turned 100 years. Esther Ocloo completed a Achimota school and took to hawking. Her marmalade business started with an 8-cent gift from her aunt, who found Esther's poor condition disturbing. From 8 cents, she made profits and started expanding her business till her alma mater heard an Achimota student was hawking marmalade and decided to give her a contract.
The school, the Achimota school, the authorities heard about it. And at that time, secondary schools, were considered as the highest educational level in the country. And for somebody to pass out at Achimota, of all places, to go hawking marmalade was unheard of. So they were, the authorities at Achimota were cited and invited her to hear the story. After hearing her story, they decided that she should go back and learn how to produce the marmalade and then the orange squash. They got in touch with the West African Frontier Force, who were then stationed in the Gold Coast at the Bama camp. And so they also gave a contract.
As early as the 1950s, Esther Ocloo brought canning equipment to start West Africa's second biggest canning company at the time.
On coming back, she brought a set of canning equipment, and they were not used. They were just in the crates in the yard, until I visited her and saw the crates and asked her what were in the crates, and she said they were machinery she brought in for canning. At that time, in the whole of Africa, there was only one canning factory that was in Nigeria.
Her landlord refused to allow her operate a cannery in his house. That did not deter her. Rather, she went finding a place, and Medina Zongo Junction was where she got. The place had been earmarked for light industries. After finding the land, Esther Ocloo and her fiancé, Robert Ocloo, then had to find the money to build the company.
When she was at Osu, she happened to share a wall with the first president of with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. They shared a wall, so they knew each other. And then in course of that, one day, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah asked her about her factory because he heard that she has moved out. Then she told him that no, not actually. They were looking for a place, but they've got the land and they don't have the money. And so she said, Dr. Nkrumah said, oh, why don't you go to Ghana Commercial Bank for the loan? That's why the bank was established, to help people like herself. She needed a collateral for the money. And her background, from a poor family in the Volta region. So she went back to Dr. Nkrumah again to inform him that that was a problem. And then Dr. Nkrumah agreed to sign the documents for her to get the money.
A collateral system and how difficult it was for women to get loans was key on the agenda at a UN Women's Conference in New York in 1975. Once again, Esther Ocloo's contributions earned her a spot as the global chair of the Women's World Banking Global.
Esther Ocloo and some women attended a UN conference in 1975 where they were challenged that they should help more women to be liberated financially. And at that time, you know that there was nothing like that in Ghana. There was no bank thinking about women. There was not even much bank in Ghana. I'm sure there were probably few ones I can't tell because I was very young then. But they decided that they wanted to do something, an umbrella that will seek the interest and the well-being of women in the whole world. So they opened Women's World Banking, not Ghana, but Women's World Banking Global, which the headquarters is in the US as we speak. It's in New York as at now. And she was the first chair of Women's World Banking Global.
The first conference, UN conference on women, she said what women needed was collateral. And therefore, Women's World Banking was born to guarantee loans for women. Those were some of the things that influenced her decision and other activities she did besides Ocloo Industries.
A series of global recognitions, Esther was recognized by Google in 2017 when she would have turned 98. At her company in Medina, which has been taken over by her children, several lines have been added on.
A friend of ours, colleague, the late K. Dom, visited us and suggested that we try and can a palm product, because people at that time were drying the fiber and then taking them abroad and reconstituted them to use, So we accepted the idea, we worked on it, and then we came out with the palm soup base.
The flagship canned palm nuts soup, and now Kenke, Esther Ocloo's daughter, wishes the company could have done more. She says her mother will turn in her grave 15 years after her death to find the company has not been moved.
She would have loved to see many more projects, and above all, she would have loved to see this factory at the new site. She spoke about it long before she passed away, and that possibly would make her turn in her grave.
Today, the company has challenges. It has to concentrate on the future. The third generation, only this junior high school pupil, is interested in the business. Who would replace them before this young lady is ready to take over is what the company has to look at now. For a company this big, perhaps government's attention should be drawn to it for a stimulus package and a preservation of history. The NBSSI offers some technical support for various indigenous companies, and so far, that is all the support the company has had.
So, Ocloo, for instance, if we start the project, we're going to be here no less than 6 weeks, where we will find out by ask them kind of questions. And by question, we ask questions under some 8 fields, like management, like human resources, like quality, inventory, finance, marketing, and let's say quality. So when we are done, we come out to what we call radar chart. And after the radar chart, we know the scores per every department. And where we have problem, we try to improve the activities under that particular department.
Ocloo Industries perhaps will need the support because of this illustrious and industrious industrialists, Esther Ocloo, who really pushed the frontiers of Ghana and put the country on the world map.
Anytime she traveled and come back, you see that the little he had, you push it into the business or start something new with it. But then because of, this financial problem, she could not keep all these things in place. And I'm very sure if she were to have support financially, the factory will not be at this stage. It will have grown bigger, wider, higher than as it is now.
And that was a brilliant expose on the Ocloo brand. Now, a delegation of German industry and commerce in Ghana will in the coming weeks be engaging some German investors willing to explore business opportunities in Ghana's water management systems. These investors are setting out what they call a plan for sustainable and affordable access to water in the country. Let's hear from the project manager, Nana Usufi.
Commissioned by the Federal Ministry in Germany to conduct a study on the water sector in Ghana. But in the framework of that project, we are also supposed to gauge the interest of the different stakeholders in the water sector in Ghana. We want to bring them together to collaboratively work on an approach or like a roadmap on who is responsible for what technology is available to sort of address these challenges in the water sector. So the entire project is in 3 modules. The first module is a target market study, which we launched today. So our next step would be the stakeholder workshop, which we have pegged for the 13th of November 2018. And then as well, right after the workshop, these different stakeholders will collaboratively bring out a strategy paper on the way forward, on the solutions that we have identified for the challenges in the water.
And on that note, we draw the curtains down on this edition of The Marketplace. It's been great having you on board. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Yeah, if you have a good afternoon.